Hello and welcome. You should be on page 40 of your pre-algebra quarter 2 notebook. In this lesson, we are going to match graphs, tables, and equations. So if you remember in our last lesson, we were taking an equation, creating a table of values, and then plotting those points onto a graph to draw a line. So what we can assume is that graphs, tables, and equations, you can have one of each that represent the same situation. So in our lesson today, we're not necessarily going to be graphing, we're just going to be matching to see what fits what. So let's say we are given a table of values and we want to match it to a graph. Well, we're going to test those points, the X and Y points, the table of value points, to make sure they fall on the line graphed. So here's an example. I'm given this table of values. Which graph matches it? Well, let's plot some points. If I look at A, I'm going to look at 0, start at the origin, -1. Well, guess what? That works. Let's see if this point falls on line B. Start at the origin, go to -1. Does not fall on line B, so B is not a correct answer choice. Let's look at C. Go over 1, down. Indeed, C is a correct answer choice. So we have some possibilities, A or C. Let's look at our next point. I have 1, start at the origin, and go down, -1, 2, 3. This clearly shows me that A does not represent that table of values. So I now know that C does, but let's just show that. If I start at the origin, 1, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can clearly see that these 3 points do match that line. Alrighty, now we're going to move on to matching a table of values to an equation. So in this case, I need to substitute. I'm going to be doing some math and I'm going to use some Desmos. The given x value into the first equation and find y. If it matches, continue to the other x values to see if they work. If it doesn't, that is not the equation and you're going to move on to the next equation. So let's take a look at this. I have my x values here, -3, -4, 5, and 6. I'm just trying to zoom in a little because what I'm going to do is this. And you're going to see this over here, and here's my Desmos. So I have y equals -2 times x minus 1. So if x equals -3, does -2 times -3 minus 1. That does equal 5. So when x equals -3, y equals 5. Great. Now I'm going to go on to the next one, see if it works. -2 times -4 minus 1. That does not work. When x equals -4, y equals 7. So this is not my answer. Alrighty, so I can move on to the next equation. I made it through one, but not good enough. So let's look at B. Now I have y equals -x plus 2. I'm going to just clear this. And I'm going to first substitute x equals -3. What does y equal? So remember, this is like saying -1 times x plus 2. So -1 times x of -3 plus 2. Y equals 5. That works. Let's look at x equals -4. -1 times -4 plus 2. Y equals 6. So far, so good. Let's take a look at x equaling 5. -1 times 5 plus 2. -3. So if x equals 5, y equals -3, that works, and you've got to check them all. So let's do our final one, -1 times 6 plus 2. And that works too. So this is the equation that works. That's my answer. But just to kind of prove that, if I were to put in x equals -3 here, right? I'm going to just clear this, clear all. If I do -3 times -3, y equals 9. So this one didn't work off the first point. Alrighty, we're going to keep on going and turn to page 41. And now we are going to match a graph to a table of values. And this is going to look very similar to our first step when we were matching a table of values to a graph. We're going to test those x, y points in the table of values to make sure they fall on the line graph. So I'm given this line here, which table of values works. So let's look at this one. If I have -2 and I go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, this is a point that falls on this graph. So this one is possible. Now let's go for -1, +3. -1, 1, 2, 3. This one does not fall on it. So that does not work. Let's look at B. I'm going to start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go down 1, 2. B does not work. Alrighty, let's look at C. I already know -2, 5 works. Let's look at 0, 2. So 0, 1, 2. That works. Now let's look at 2, 1, 2, -1. This works. I know that all these points work, so I know this is my answer, but just to kind of look, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, that worked. But if I go 1, 1, this worked, that did not. So, and neither does -1, -1, 2, 3. So that didn't work either. So it's kind of lots of different ways you can figure it out. You can start wherever you want, but only one table is going to fully match your graph. Alrighty, this final matching piece, we're going to go back to using Desmos because, well, there might be a maybe step. You might have to translate the equation first if it's necessary. Then we're going to substitute the given x values into the equation and find y. If it matches, continue to the other x values. If not, move on to the next table. Okay, so let's take a peek. This looks like I'm going to have to translate. Is another way of saying equals. So I have y equals 4 less than 3 times a number. 3 times a number, that's my x, so it's 3 times x, and it's 4 less than that, -4. Less indicates subtraction. So my equation is y equals 3x minus 4. So we're going to substitute all of these numbers in here. Of course, I don't like where this is written, so I'm going to move it really quickly so I can show my work. I'm going to put y equals 3x minus 4. Let's start here. If x equals -1, I'm going to substitute -1 into the equation. I have 3 times -1 minus 4. Oh, y equals -7, so this does not work. A is not my choice. Let's put x equals -2. I'm going to put 3 times -2 minus 4. All right, y equals -10. This works. Let's put x is -1. 3 times -1 minus 4. Ah, this works. If x is -1, Desmos has showed me that y is -7. All right, last one. If x equals 0, let's see. 3 times 0 minus 4. Ah, all that work. And y equals -4. This one does not work. B is not my answer. Okay, C. I'm going to look at my first, x equals 0, and I just did that in case you're wondering, but I'll do it again. 3 times 0 minus 4. Well, y equals -4. This is not the answer. So I am fairly certain D is the answer, but let's go through my points and prove it. If x equals -1, or excuse me, +1, 3 times 1 minus 4 works. Y equals -1. 3 times 2 minus 4. That works. 3 times 3 minus 4. And that works. So I can see that these all work. So that is it for this video. Thanks so much.